So hello everybody, welcome to live stream 26. Tried another solution with the harp, which isn't direct from the software, which is where it should be, but anyway, hopefully it sounded okay. I did it from the iTunes instead, and hopefully that sounded okay. We'll see how that worked later. Anyway, welcome. I think we've still got a few people coming on stream, so I'll just say hello to the people that I can see. Hopefully I'll pick everybody up. So that's Lynn, Ashleisha, Dan, what else have we got? Leah Tilda, Heather, Christine, Elizabeth, Anne, Vivian, Dion, Nancy, Lewis. Yeah, I think that's all the ones I can see at the moment, and no doubt there's some others as well. So welcome to you. Sandy, I can see as well, as just come on. And also welcome to those who are watching on catch up or on replay. So as I say, this is live stream 26, the title of which is The Unseen Seer. But it's also, auspiciously, 1st of March and the start of the 3-month meditation program. And at last check, and I haven't got the figure right here in front of me, there was about 36 or 37 people who said they're going to commit to that. So that's fantastic. Not all of those necessarily watching right now, because I know there's quite a few people who have got other plans for tonight, but we'll watch it on catch up, so that's fine. All the streams are automatically recorded anyway, and are usually live on YouTube within about an hour. And I've just heard my email ping, so I'm going to turn that off. Excuse me a moment. Yeah, okay, so that shouldn't happen again. Yeah, so they're usually available on YouTube as a recording within about an hour, and I post them on Facebook and on the website, both on the main site and also as part of the forum. So for those of you who are new to it, that's what will happen. So yeah, for the stream for the 3-month meditation, I was looking at the various people that have joined us and the countries. I just thought that would be interesting to share. We're quite good coverage. So we've got several people in the USA, most people in the UK, as you might imagine. That's where I am. Trinidad and Tobago, the Netherlands, Belgium, the Philippines, Russia, Sweden, and Canada. And those are the ones I know about. So if I've missed your country and you're part of the 3-month meditation program, you feel free to let me know. And I've also seen Curtis and Lee come on stream as well. So the way I'm going to run tonight's stream is I'm going to do the usual sort of insight sharing around the unseen seer this time. And then I'll move on to some of the admin around the 3-month meditation program, just to make sure everybody's clear around that. And we'll finish off with an infinite silence meditation as always. So that's the way I'll do that. And I may be able to, there's a facility on YouTube where I might be able to split this recording, have a whole version plus the insight sharing and the kind of 3-month meditation as a separate piece. We'll see. Just been looking at that technology. Anyway, so for those of you who listen to live streams 24 and 25, 24 was called Who is This Self in Self Realisation, and 25 looked at the fundamental spiritual inquiry question, which is, who am I? And I'm seeing this stream tonight, the Unseen Seer, as completing a trio on the nature of this self and in self-realization. And you remember in stream 24, for those of you who've seen it, and if you haven't, it's worthwhile going back to look at it, because it might make what I'm saying tonight make more sense to you. I was focusing on then the nature of this self. What is this self? And the kind of major point arising out of it is that it's what I refer to as the infinite silence, and it's totally non-personal. And this infinite silence in other ways is expressed as pure awareness. Pure awareness. And it's very important to understand that this self in self-realization is totally non-personal. It's just awareness, and it's awareness of itself as infinite silence. And then I went on to share that this expression that we have of that in the form is the way that it comes to experience itself. Without the beingness and the physical domain and time and space, we won't have experience, because the absolute, the infinite silence, has no experience. So that was the summary of stream 24. And then in stream 25, I went in to explore that deeper by looking at the question, who am I? And you'll remember the summary of that one, this question, who am I, when explored to its depth. Mind goes, well, I am this person with this story, these beliefs, and so on. But you remember I pointed out at great length that any phenomena, any sensations and so forth, weren't the self, whether it be from feelings, sensations, emotions, even beingness, even just pure beingness, nothing after the words I am, that wasn't the self either. You are before I am. The infinite silence is before the I am. So I'm just summarizing those two streams again, 24 and 25, because what I want to go on to now is what I've referred to as the unseen seer, because that's another reference or pointing to or label that we can use for the nature of this true self as infinite silence. And it's the unseen seer. Just listen to those two words carefully. Unseen seer. This means that this true self is the unseen. We're so used to seeing, feeling, touching, tasting, hearing, and yet this true self is the unseen. And it's also the seer. What does that mean? It means that from the personal identity space, human personhood, that's not the self, and you're not going to realize that you are this infinite silence whilst there's still identification and attachment and belief in that identification as the form, as the person, as the ego. For this to be realized, this identity has to be dropped. And so that you, in the non-personal sense, become the unseen. In fact, you are already this unseen, and you've never not been that. The realization then is about dropping the identity so that the awareness or remembrance or realization can come that you are the unseen, the pure awareness, the infinite silence. This also fits with a question. I'm not sure what the origins of this question are actually. I did have a quick look. It doesn't really matter because its pointing is still important anyway. And I've heard it referred to as the Purana question. And the question is, this self, can this also be seen? And then going on to say, this you must discover for yourself. This self in self-realization, can this also be seen? That is basically the Purana question. And you might wonder why it's called the Purana question. And the reason it's called the Purana question is that it swallows you up. Like the who am I question, when explored to its end point, it swallows the personal identity up. And it's in the dropping of the belief in the personal identity completely that the awareness or the realization of the self emerges. It's not something that's seen in the traditional sense. It is the awareness of this, and that you, in the non-personal sense, are it. That is suddenly realized, remembered, known. It is seen that you are the awareness in the non-personal sense. The awareness recognizes itself as awareness. That's all. And that's why it is unseen. It is not seen from the human space. It is recognized, remembered, realized from its own space in the non-personal sense, and that's what you are. So hopefully you're starting to piece together why I've considered this as a trio of streams, from who is this self in self-realization and the who am I question, and now looking at it from the perspective of the unseen seer. This just gives us another angle, another pointing, another way to explore this, and that all becomes clear as the personal identification has dropped. And you may have remembered that I've said on other streams, it's only the belief that you are not this realized self now, i.e. the belief that you are this person with this story, that stops the realization. Only that one fundamental case of mistaken identity stops the realization, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And when a crack in that armor opens, the armor of ego, then the possibility of the realization emerges. And you will realize that you are, in the non-personal way, the unseen. And you will also realize that you are therefore the ultimate seer. S-E-E-R. are. S-E-E-R, the unseen seer. This is what you are. Not the personhood, not the identity, not the story, but this. And this is something that you don't have to, in fact, I highly recommend that you don't believe me on. Don't believe a word I say, because truth, as in ultimate truth, is an experience, not a belief. Let me say that again. Truth is an experience, not a belief. When it becomes experiential non-personally, then it is realized. Like this, the unseen, one realizes one is the unseen, the infinite silence, the true self. And it turns out it's fundamentally, it could not be simpler, because one already is this. So self-realization doesn't become a goal or an end point. It simply is a realization of that which is here. You get there by realizing you are already there, and there being the realized self. This mind cannot grasp, but this is already known by you. Just going to pick up on a few more hellos. I think I've seen D come on, Lee, Lisbeth, welcome to you, Lois, John, Light Guardian, and if I've missed anybody, apologies. I'm just having a quick look now. I think that's everybody, and I think there's a comment here which I'm gonna just pick. Oh, question. This is tonight's live stream. Yes, it is, Lois. It's stream 26, and it's the Unseen Seer, and it's also the start of the 3-month meditation. Just want to pick up on a comment from Light Guardian, who's saying, I understand the concept, but the ego can't drop in this 3D dimension. So we'll never get this from the space of mind until it is experiential. Then it's just theoretical. Now, there is some truth in what you're saying in the latter part of there, of the ego can't drop in this dimension. And the reason that there is truth in that is that there has to be a little, should we say, like a grain of sand, like the pearl that creates the pearl in the oyster, that allows the physical, the beingness, to manifest. So it's often referred to as an illusion, but you could also say it's both real and unreal. Now, when the grain of sand becomes identified with, and you start to add to that and become the story, then you get a very strong ego, and you get great suffering as a result. But as the opening to the heart space occurs and the story starts to drop, and the beliefs in particular drop that you are the person and the story, then, and the openness is emerging and flowering that actually that you are this essence, this infinite silence, then the belief and identification and the attachment to the grain, which at one time may become a huge snowball, for instance, all of that starts to go. Now, to hold the body here in this dimension, then it is true that the grain has to be there. But if there's no identification with it, no belief that one is that, then this gives the opportunity for the self to be realized. There's now an opening that's wide open to the awareness that you are, in fact, the awareness. So what you're pointing at is actually accurate, but all of the belief that one is the grain of sand, this must go. Because with that, there will always be suffering. When that goes completely, and I mean completely, totally, then the suffering can drop. It doesn't mean that there isn't still the uniqueness of the expression of the silence in a particular form. I've often referred to it as like a diamond. You see the diamond through the facets. The facets here are now like the grain of sand. And you see the beauty of the diamond because of the way the light shines on and through the facets. One knows one is the whole diamond, yet your form is like a facet or the grain of sand that creates the pearl. The knowing, the awareness that you are the totality, the unseen seer. What this requires is the dropping of all of the identification and the belief and the attachment in that. And as that happens, the suffering drops with it. Usually, for most people, this is quite a gradual process or an apparent process. It can be, however, very dramatically sudden, like it was for Eckhart Tolle. That's fairly rare. More often than not, it unfolds as a journey, as more and more personhood is dropped. So back to what I was saying about the unseen seer, this unseen seer that you are, the infinite silence, again, is completely non-personal. It is unseen from the personal perspective. It is only the seer, the awareness of itself as awareness. So coupled with streams 24 and 25, this part, as I say, is just to give you another take on, another angle of view, so to speak, on the nature of the self. Non-personal awareness. That's it. That's all you are. Just awareness. And then the form and the beingness then become a gift from that absoluteness, where there's no phenomena, no experience, to express and experiencing itself. And then this way, life becomes a more gentle, more graceful flowering. You're still going to have to, eat and do all the things that one does in the physical domain. Like that old Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. In the first case, there was suffering. In the second, the identifications dropped. And now there's a more graceful, more aligned existence with the truth of who you are. So I'm hoping that picks up on your question or observation, Light Guardian. Just see if there's anybody else that wants to ask or share anything on that before I move on to the second part of the stream, which is the start of the 3-month meditation program. So yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything desperate at the moment, so I'll move on, and if there is, I can always come back to that. So yeah. All right, so Nancy's asking, are you saying we will be in this state full time? For this to be the case, Nancy, the identification has to drop completely. And this tends to unfold in stages for most people. It's very rare that it's like one big lightning event. However, once that identity has dropped completely, it doesn't mean, and the self has been unequivocally realized. This you will know. This you would know. It doesn't mean that there aren't still the facets of the diamond there or the grain of sand. You will still see some, shall we say, particular characteristics of the way the silence is expressing itself in the particular form. There's something unique about its expression in that form. You may even still see some quirks, some what you might call personality quirks of that, but it doesn't mean that that being hasn't realized. Itself. It's just the silence is expressing itself in a unique and particular way. And this is why, certainly in spiritual traditions, you may resonate with how one individual, or apparent individual more accurately, shares the pointing compared to another. What they're actually saying is the same thing, but in slightly different ways. What you can be sure of, though, is that what you experience as lots of troubling stuff going on, lots of suffering and so forth, by far the vast majority of that will go. It doesn't mean that the washing machine doesn't break down or your car doesn't need fixing or that you don't, all these things are still going to happen. But you're going to find a much more graceful flow, much less. You're not really going to be triggered by stuff. You may still notice a little, shall we say, maybe perturbation occasionally. I've heard Eckhart Tolle talk about this. He talked about some time where he saw a dog being very badly treated, and he felt something emerge in him which he hadn't felt for some time, which was a little bit of distress or anger, but he noticed it then subsiding. Like this, sometimes that might happen occasionally, but what you'll notice, the awareness is so strong now of itself as awareness that there may still be something in the energetic field of the body that needs to be cleared. But as it arises, it is immediately observed or witnessed. And it's witnessed from this space of silence. And that alone is enough for it to dissolve. And this, my friends, is the essence of live stream 11, transmuting fear into love. One I've spoken to you about a great deal about, how just the pure awareness alone that's talked about in that stream is enough to transform you back to that state. So yes, the awareness will be there when it's fully anchored, and I mean fully anchored. Not just a glimpse, I'm talking about fully anchored. The kind of dissolution of all of the stuff, which can take some time even after the realization. Then the awareness will be the stable background state. Like that. It's a fallacy to say that there's no uniqueness or that there's this idea of a perfect being. The absolute perfection, the infinite silence, that's what you are. But only that is really the absolute perfection. Yet the facet, it is through the beauty of the facet that you see the diamond. And that will be expressed with peace, grace, love. Presence is the thing you're going to notice. Presence.